Parents always ask me, says, Davey, I have a kid just like you. I will homeschool, but my kid wouldn't pay attention. He drives me nuts, always drawing his brother and sister or causing trouble with his scribble. And so these kids, I call it their right brain children. They learn differently. You can't peg them and do all the same thing with all the homeschool kids. And the great thing about creativity workshop with us that we do here in our curriculum is there's no perfect answer because every kid is different. They might draw a draft a little bit different. They might combine elephant and draft together, and they have this freedom where they can soar within their lane.
Welcome to Homeschool Talks, a podcast by HSLDA. This is a show about all things homeschooling, from practical tips to inspiring stories and everything in between. You can find show notes for this episode along with our other Homeschool Talks conversations at hslda.org/podcast. And if you want to be the first to know about new episodes, as well as upcoming guests and topics, sign up for our email list using the link in the show notes. We're so glad you've joined us today, and we hope you enjoyed the program. Here's your host, Jim Mason.
Hi, I'm Jim Mason, President of Homeschool Legal Defense Association, and this is another episode of Homeschool Talks, where I talk to interesting people who also are interested in homeschooling. And today I'm very excited to welcome Davy Liu. Davy has had an exciting, adventurous life, and he's a former Disney animator. He's worked on such films as The Lion King, Beauty and the Beast, and Mulan. After years of working in the industry with Disney, he left an adventurous leaving to launch Kendo Films and Kendo Kids, two ventures to share stories and foster traditional, virtuous, and moral values in young children. I watched one of Davy's TED Talks before I came here to talk with Davy himself. He is passionate about what he does. Welcome, Davy.
Thank you, Jim. I'm so honored to be part of this homeschool community.
Davy, tell us, where do you live now, and how did you arrive where you live now?
I live in the city of Los Angeles, the largest children's continent in the world, but not by choice, by missions. And how did I get here? I grew up in good old Disney World, Orlando, and I got transferred here to work in the headquarters in Walt Disney Feature Animations.
Yeah, tell us about that. You have worked on the soundtrack of my children's growing up years.
Yeah.
That's right. I know that one.
Everybody can memorize that song. So I was one of those kids growing up. I grew up in Taiwan. Man, I was dumb as it comes. You know, I was every parent's nightmare, which is making straight F. We don't have homeschool in Florida. I mean, in Taiwan. So I immigrated to run away from that academic pressures. I have older sisters. They all make straight A except me. I was a straight F. But I came to America. You have art school. You have art class, actually draws, right? So a teacher gave me a pencil and paper, and that's all it took. I discovered I can't make straight A's, but I can draw straight lines. And then I pursue art, despite everyone told me don't do it. Have you heard of starving artists? I just believe my dad told me I can do all things through Christ who strengthened me. So I pursue art. That's who I am made to be. And so I drew, and I just love art. And then Disney came to recruit us out of the whole world, and they're all looking for 8 kids. So I was one of those number 8 kids that got into Disney in 1990. And then I started working on my, I grew up with Disney. Who didn't grow up with Disney? I love Pinocchio, Peter Pan. So I got to work on other kids' classic, Beauty and the Beast, Aladdin, and so on. I love it. I mean, Disney was the best. I call it art school. I mean, I got paid doing what I love. They're giving me hundreds of white sheet of paper. I have to animate. For me, I can't sit still. I have to draw 24 frames per second. But it was a great job. I really love working at Disney.
So you went to art school on Uncle Walt's dime.
Uncle Walt's dime. I got to hang out with Uncle Walt's nephew, Royal Disney. I got to develop projects with him. Lion King and then Mulan. It was a great adventure. It's true. Every Disney animator wanted to hide themselves in there. Mine's a little more obvious. I got to draw myself as this character in Mulan. So this is as an animated character. Yeah. So it's kind of fun, something that you leave. Um, let's see. So Royal Disney, something happened when I was working in there, when I was developing Atlantis in 1998. And then I got transferred out in LA, and I was up in their headquarters now, right? I'm in their Alterman Brain think tank. And when I saw what I saw on the wall of what they were developing, that's when I was so convicted. Even though we had a Bible study there. I mean, I just couldn't have sense of peace, feeling that God's given me this gift and this opportunity and a dream job. But yet I just can't see myself stand in eternity and contribute to something that is not pleasing to God's heart for children. And then when one verse hit me, it says, let the little children come to me, Jesus says, and do not hinder them. And Jesus mentioned that if you hinder children, you put a millstone on your throat. Wow, I thought about how God cares so much for the little children. And then even thought I thought about leaving Disney, and I saw the struggle of the churches that they couldn't keep kids, because kids will grow up in churches. And then the Christian today, 95, that kids grew up in churches for 18 years. After 4 years of college, less than 5% retain their faith. And this is 1995. And that's how I knew that the Sunday school was not good enough. And I saw Disney was the largest children's ministry. And that's when my heart started beginning to dream about potentially truly follow what my dad told me, I can do all things through Christ. Start my own animation studio.
When did you do that?
So after Disney Atlantis, I got a call from George, and I got invited to work on Star Wars in 1999, 98 to 99. I was on the Industrial Light Magic, and then I didn't know how to start. I just okay, I had this idea that I wrote, and because Lion King have made so much. Now, the Lion King is a story inspired by story of Moses. So that's when I got this idea. So what if I write a story about animal perspective of Noah's Ark? How did they know where Noah's Ark is? What if the T-Rex doesn't believe in the ark and the flood? That's why they extinct. So my creative mind started thinking about writing this thing. So I wrote that story really rough when I was working for Warner Brothers in 95 to 96. And then, so that story, that 10 pages became really a reality. So it was really a walk of my faith. I left my Hollywood job in year 2000, and I moved down to Southern California, Orange County. I was still freelancing for Disney on Lion King 2 and 3. And while I was doing that, I started developing this story, The Giant Leaf. And so the more I got into it, the more I started recruiting writers, and then just started developing. So 2004 is when I started my Kendo film studio.
So how did you come up with the name Kendo, Kendu?
Kendo came from this guy. He's the main character of my film, The Giant Leap. So Kendo's name comes from, you can do all things through Christ who strengthened me. Because my dad told me you can do all things. So I want to tell children, you can do it.
I have one too.
Yeah, you can do it, Jim. We all need to be heard. We don't need to be reminded. We can do it.
So you wrote a book, got the book published, then what?
No, actually, this book came from a movie animated film. It's a 90 minutes animation. Yeah, it's a 90 minutes animation script. I have to create that script into a beautiful book, and I have to show the investor how I would present the Bible through animal perspective. So I wrote this book, Jim, not to sell the books. I just want to make this book really beautiful for kids. So the investor saw this. I can't say the name, but it's one of the burger joint in California that had helped me fund half of my funding of $35 million. So I'm continuing to be challenged to find the rest of the funding. I don't know why. But anyway, my goal is to really try to find the fundings for these feature animated films. And then so when I just did one, I didn't stop. For some reason, the creativity just kept going. And the Lord just says, don't just do one, right? Disney didn't have just a one Lion King. So first one is animal perspective, Noah's Ark. And then our following summer we're going to do is fish perspective, Moses parting the Red Sea. And then we have whale perspective of Jonah, two pigs perspective, Gentiles, with the donkey's perspective of Jesus. lion perspective of Daniel. And then beautiful animal, majestic, secret garden animal of tree good and evil about Adam and Eve. So I just kind of want to how can I take Bible like I did with the Lion King and then make it to all nation and tribe and tongues that they can experience biblical allegories, but you got to explain the parables. So by default, a few years ago, 7 years ago, right before COVID, I was stumbling into this homeschool down here in Southern California. And then that's when I saw a huge need. I remember a mother would cry in front of my booth in 2018. She said, I've been praying for this. She said, my kids we don't watch Disney, but there's no substitutes. And I can't make my kids watching Cucumber and Tomato for a million times. So they want something that is equal with Disney. So I remember that the tear that she was standing in front of my booth continued to be my inspirations of why I do what I do. And I really want to do is really, how do I tell children that you are God's diamond and not a marble? How can I tell children that your life is precious? And education is really just delivering the message of God's love for children. And so that's what Kendo wants to do, is really bringing that wholesome biblical gospel, but in such a children's way. I say my job is really translate the Bible in children's language. So that's really my passion. It's like I did with Disney, is I want God to have the largest children's ministry beyond what Disney's doing.
So you're motivated a lot by the way modern media influences children. Talk us through that a little bit. Yeah,
so because today there's so much technology and special effects. I remember when I was working on a Beauty and Beast, everything's hand drawn, and then the slow transition or everything's become CGI. When you start having this awesome technology, right? We know when it's 2D, it looks cartoon. But when we start having things like CGI, Toy Story, man, it looks so real. So from children's perspective, it doesn't have any boundaries. They just think this is real, right? I mean, Santa Claus, kids will eventually find out it's fake. But when you have this superhero nowadays with Marvel and all that stuff, kids, eventually, it just tattoo into their heart and soul. So I remember starting working at Disney, the first day Disney says, we're going to get kids before they turn 10. They'll remember the story, and then they'll tell their kids, and they'll come to their theme park and buy merchandise. Wow. Right? I mean, animated film is actually one of the large advertising campaign. And I thought there's nothing really that stands for the biblical gospel. I can't recall anything that's for children, at least not in the caliber of Hollywood standard, right? When I say church standard, I mean, we all know it's low budget, no budget. I'm talking about Hollywood quality that present the gospel so innovative, creative with CGI, right? With beautiful today technology of AI. How do you bring the word become flesh? The Bible is so rich from book of Genesis to Revelation. There's stuff in Revelations that you can't even fathom. And I just love this verse, Jim, when Apostle Paul says in 1 Corinthians, it says, no eyes have seen, no ears have heard, no mind can conceive that those that God has prepared such place for them that who love them. That tells me no CGI, no Hollywood special effects can mimic or can even drum it up the awesomeness and wonders of God. So as a human being, using the tool that we have, I want to bring a little piece of that Paul is describing for children, so that they know before they turn 10, they have this little piece of heaven, and they have this little piece of joy, and their worth and their value are all reside in the name of Jesus.
You've written a book called I Am a Diamond, Not a Marble. How can this book help parents help their children?
Yeah, so I kind of forget when you work in Hollywood, and I'm Chinese, I always wear a cowboy hat because I realized that God, when I was a kid, my mom is typical tiger mom. She wanted me to be this doctor and engineer. Man, there's no way this Forrest Gump can't become a doctor and engineer. So I came to America, and I'm an artist, right? And I'm 57. My mom's still hoping that I'll change my career to a doctor and engineer. It's like, good luck, right? Every kid are creatively, fearfully, and wonderfully made. So I talk about my TED Talk doing my 30 when I was 30 years old. I remember Lion King, Beauty and the Beast, Aladdin. Whenever it come out, my mom wouldn't go see my movie. She would mention other kids' success. And I always hoping that my mom will see my movie And then one day God whispered to me when I was working on Star Wars, God says, Davey, your mom sees you as marble, but in my eyes, I created you to be a diamond. So I just had this metaphor of how valuable in God's eyes every child is a diamond. So I just did this talk in Taiwan, okay? And I just did it just in the mainstream, and I just talk about, I thought I was a cow growing up in Asia, but then I realized that I went to America. Someone told me I could be a cowboy. You could be you, you don't have to be number one, but be only one. So I just talk about like God see me as diamond and not a marble. So that talk, and the publisher, a major business weekly, Chinese publishers, just published my biography and says, your story is very inspiring. So I thought, if my story of, God sees you as diamond, not a marble, you don't have to be number one, but only one. So China and Taiwan published my biography, 2013. And, it's just, cause I kind of just really went very transparent about my growing up in a Chinese family and how I grew up very low self-esteem and depressed, and how I came to America and then discovered, God saw me as diamond, not a marble. So that biography is in China and Taiwan. They're not yet published in English yet. I'm still haven't find a fit publishers, because the publisher that published my book was the education of Beijing in China. So every faculties in China, if you want to become a school teacher, you must read one of my biography. That's how cool this Forrest Gump, that God can do all things through Christ. And I just give God all the praise, because there's no one can underestimate the power of what God can do when you put your child in God's hand. And that's what my dad did, is really trusting that God can do all things through this broken boy.
Well, you've given a lot of thought to creativity and nurturing creativity in children. What can parents do to nurture creativity in their kids who maybe aren't as academically inclined?
Yeah, no, I go to homeschool conferences. That's number one. Parents always ask me, says, Davey, I have a kid just like you. I will homeschool, but my kid wouldn't pay attention. He drives me nuts, always drawing his brother and sister or causing trouble with his scribble. And so these kids, I call it they're right brain children. They learn differently. You can't peg them and do all the same thing with all the homeschool kids. So I decided, how can I encourage parents to come up with an idea of creativity, and also you've got to empower them, because parents are like, what do I do? These kids are creative. So what I did is I created curriculum. So the 6 storybooks of the Bible, they're picture books on our website, they're story of the Bible. What I did is I want to create a space where I can give them a pencil and paper, just a pencil and paper, where these children get to create with me. So beginning this year, I came up with a Bible curriculum, how to teach this 6 stories to the children. So it's 6 stories, it's 12 weeks Bible curriculum, doesn't take 18 years. And then, so in that 12 weeks, every Friday is creativity day. So the parents get a day off. I will babysit your kids. I'll come to your house. I will teach your kids how to draw the main animated character. And the whole point is really allows children to have a freedom. The day on every Friday, they get to face a blank sheet of paper. Okay. Guess what? They're going to exercise their creativity. So all they do is scan the QR code, and I will lead them into creativity. So for example, one segment of this is on the Genesis stories. One lesson is that kids has to take 6, these animals here in Genesis, and they have to take 3 animals, and they have to create their own animals. So for example, elephant, zebra, or maybe giraffe, all 3 of them, they pick and they take their attribute and create their own characters. And the great thing about creativity workshop with us that we do here in our curriculum is there's no perfect answer, because every kid is different. They might draw giraffe a little bit different. They might combine elephant and giraffe together, and they have this freedom where they can soar within their lane. And that's what creativity is. And I saw when Disney, when they come out with The Lion King, they also invite children to come. And I remember there'll be VIP nights, and I will have to teach like Princess Diana, Prince William, how to draw Mufasa and Simba. And they're little kids, and they just love how Disney cultivate creativity to children.
So back up a little bit here. You taught Princess Diana and and now
Prince William, Prince William.
like these are the ones from England, right?
That's right. That's right. When he's a little kid, I came to our studio at Disney in 1991 when we were working on Beauty and the Beast. I remember Princess Diana would come back to the stage, and two little, at that time it was Prince William, and he was like working and drawing right next to us on Disney animation table. So and of course it's for press, right? So it was a lot of fun. I mean, I got to teach these kids how to draw, and so I taught many Johnny Depp, Michael Jackson's, just they're big kids, but it's their dream to come to Walt Disney Studio to meet the Disney animators. So that's what I want to do, is really bring in that creativity energy in my Bible curriculum for children.
Well, what's the status of, you said you have part of the funding. What's your anticipated release dates and that sort of thing?
So the animation is going to be done in Canada, 7 studio, roughly about 2,000 animators, from technology all the way to CG animations. The production time is 2 years. So if all goes well, we're hoping trajectory date it'd be 2007, June 30th. We want to do 6 animated films. So our goal is really put God in the mainstream. So when Disney's coming out with their film, they usually come out in July. So we want to beat Disney 1 week before every film that they release, so that Jesus get the first introduction every summer in every nation, every tribe and tongue.
Well, that's exciting. How do you foresee, it being distributed in, like, is it just like for United States, English speaking, China?
Yeah. So we have multiple language. As we speak here, I got a land that based on this 6 stories of the Bible. These 6 stories of the Bible have won the best children's moral book in 2015. I got invited to headquarters. Billy Graham says, while our clergy are being kicked out, how did you bring the Bible to China? Well, I said, first, you got to be Chinese. Second of all, I preach the gospel like a snake, not like a dove. That creativity is God's first attribute. And I think God's first attribute, in the beginning, God created heavens and earth. Creativity, if the Hollywood had personified that personnel of creativity to mega 1,000 times. And that's what I really saw that the Bible really need. It's really word become flesh. So, this animation studio, my team, executive producer, it's a former president of Walt Disney Feature Animations, and our director are Mulan directors. So all our team are all A-list people. Our distribution is either Sony or Fox, one of the mainstreams. We want to make this as mainstream as I know how. I really want to get the gospel out like a snake, not like a dove. Not your traditional church market where you kind of show at churches or maybe only stream at churches. My job is to preach the gospel to the ends of the earth, in all tribe, tongue, and nations, to all children that love Disney and that eventually will found the good news of Jesus Christ.
So my notes here say that when you were a Disney animator, you won a very prestigious award, and you have some thoughts about it as well.
Let's see. When I was Disney, yeah, I mean, Oscar is won by a team. You don't win by everything. I would say my biggest accomplishment at Disney was in Halloween. I portrayed Michael Eisner, CEO, and also Jeffrey Katzenberg. Halloween. Halloween's a big thing in Disney, and so I portray Michael Eisner and Jeffrey Katzenberg. I heard that they had a fist fight in the office in 1994. So I portray that as my Halloween costumes, and I won the best Halloween costume in the whole entire Walt Disney company. Can you imagine thousands of people in Walt Disney Studio, and here's a Chinese guy dressed up as 2 guys beating each other up on the studio lot, and that became a huge news. I remember the Hollywood Report had talked about it. So that costume that I built out of Home Depot supplies that I bought, and it was just for fun. I thought it'd be hilarious to watch 2 adults fight over studio power. So I won, and then Michael Eisner even emailed me, says, Davey, I want to see that on my birthday. Can you come over to my house and show me? Because they're so elaborate, the costume, that I have to play 2 guys beating each other up. And then so in Warner Brothers, I won the best costume there. And then guess this, in 1999, I was at Lucas Ranch, Industrial Land Manager, their Halloween costume contest. I also was voted the best Halloween costume contest. Can you imagine all the Star Wars guys that built all the costume? I dominate all of them. So again, I just want to say that, that the contrast of Davy Liu as a kid, he was a troublemaker because he loved to scribble on textbooks. And now he grows up and found his creativities and his innovations, and he's able to connect his faith with his maker. I just want to give the parents a summary and a hope, saying that your kids at home, you might have a Davy Liu at home that can't sit still, that doesn't follow the perfect rhythm of drums of academic study. There's hope. He and she's going to be next Davy Liu. There's nothing wrong with that child. Please, I can promise you. This kid just learned a little bit different. He's going to be the next Steve Jobs. He's going to be the next Elon Musk. Just make sure that he loved and she loved Jesus. Connect their faith when they're young. Connect them with Jesus, like my dad did to me. When I was a kid growing up in Taiwan, my dad was the most successful entrepreneur. He had a big bakery store. I grew up memorized these verses in our bakery store. It says, Jesus is the bread of life. My dad was a preacher. He was a man of God at home, day in, day out. That's what I saw. My mom every day scolding me, become a doctor, engineer, go get tutoring, blah, blah. That bounced off of me. But what my dad did is really encourage me with the word of God. You can do all things through Christ. So that's why today I want to just give it a shout out to my dad. Thank you for telling me I can do all things through Christ.
I'm very curious, how does a man of such exuberant faith survive in Hollywood for as long as you did?
I have to say, every studio I went, Warner Brothers, Disney, ILM, I am always connected with the internal studio, that there's believers. There's a guy named Glenn King. He's very successful. He's the animator on a lot of big characters. He's like the guru of Disney animators. He's a strong believer. He was such an encouragement to me. He says, I asked him, I says, I always ask him, say, hey, you're a big Disney guy here. You've been here for a long time. You're a legend. Have you thought about using your gift and leaving Disney and go do something else? And I remember he told me that, God's called me to be a missionary here. And he's not working at Disney anymore, but I remember that very much so. I said, here I am. Yeah, I know this is challenging. I can't use my gift to draw something that is demonic, but I'm called to be a missionary. I am called to be the light of the world. When the world is becoming so dark, such as Hollywood, man, I can't run, Jim. I gotta be a light. I can't run. I have to be even brighter and to be a light of the world. So sure, I live in LA, not by choice. I mean, I want to move out of here. I want to move to somewhere else, just like everybody else. But God called me to be a light of the world in a dark place. So, it's not by might nor by power. I just am so blessed, in my personal walk with the Lord. I mean, he just gave me so much revelations about creativity, about telling the story of God through creativity, through innovations. And so I'm super passionate about that. And then when I go to homeschool, I meet many mothers that cried with joy in front of my booth. And I knew this is what I'm made for. And Jim, I want to tell you that my dad, I'm the youngest of number 7. My dad fought the communist war, came to Taiwan. When he was 20 years old, he had a TB. And the doctor says, you have 4 months to live. So they put him in the morgue waiting to die. And a missionary gave him a Bible. And then that missionary gave him the Bible. And he read that Bible. It was Chinese and English. And he became born again. And then God healed his TB. And my dad, I just came back from Orlando. He's to celebrate his 100th birthday. I talk about God is tenacious. God is resilient. And I just have this faith inherited from my father that, we're not perfect family by any means. We have our shortcomings, but I get reminded by my father I'm celebrating my birthday 2 days from now. And then on August 14th, my dad always write me and says, you're a miracle baby. Why? Because he said, I witnessed you. You have no heartbeat over a week. You're supposed to be dead. You're supposed to be C-section now. But for some reason, before they C-section you out, they found your heartbeat came back. And the doctor says that this kid may struggle because of lack of oxygen. Mm. So, I just talk about God has a great sense of humor, that God can truly turn lemon into lemonade. And that's truly is my story of my life.
Well, it's been a fascinating conversation and an interesting and adventurous life you've led. Wish you the best of luck on your film. How can people find out more about you?
Yes, I do a lot of speakings. So I this September, I'm going to be speaking at Culture and Christian and outside of Nashville in World Outreach Church with Pastor Allen. So you can reach out to me easy. Simply go on my website, kendukids.org, KENDU, kids, KIDS.org, kendukids.org. And you can reach out to me there. Or whenever you see all my conferences and event, we can certainly meet there as well. So thank you so much for this wonderful interview.
Well, we're looking forward to when your films become a reality. And I just have one last question. Will we laugh? Will we cry? Will they move us, Bob?
When the film come out, you said, Jim?
So you said you were tired of cucumbers and tomatoes, but I remember cucumbers and tomatoes because I my kids.
They loved it, right? They laughed, right?
Yeah, they loved them.
Can you imagine if the vegetable can be that funny? You can imagine the meat is going to be even more feeling. So yeah, you're gonna laugh because it's really the journey of this wonderful Kendo who had a dream of the giant leap, and you absolutely gonna laugh because it's got that Lion King / Jurassic Park / Indiana Jones. This is like Indiana Jones. It is epic story of God. Because I saw in the book of Genesis, it says 7 days before the flood, the animal marched to the ark. And I thought, wow, what did they saw? And I'll tell you, I mean, that 120 years, what animal called Noah's Ark animal eaters? And the T-Rex mocked an animal that had a dream of the giant leaf, man. You're going to have a great laugh at the end and what they discovered at the end of how God predestined every animal, and the animal went inside the ark, found their name written in the stall. It's going to be awesome.
Well, it's been awesome talking with you today, and thank you for coming on to the podcast. And if you've enjoyed this episode, please do share this with your friends, and do that like and all that stuff you do on wherever you're listening to this podcast. That'll help us get the podcast out. And if you'd like to have this podcast delivered straight to your inbox, you can sign up for Homeschool Talks and get it delivered as soon as it comes out. And don't forget to go to kendukids.org, right? Is that right? Kendukids.
That's right. Kendukids.org.
There you go.
Can do it.
And if you're not yet a member of HSLDA, we'd love for you to join us to help us advocate for homeschool freedom. And you can do that by going to homeschooltalks.com or hslda.org. Thanks, Davey.
Thank you, Jim. You can do it. We can do it.
Today's program is made possible by HSLDA's Member Savings Program. Did you know that your HSLDA membership can pay for itself with our specially negotiated discounts on products and services? You can save on expenses like rental cars, hotel reservations, technology, curriculum, school supplies, and more. And we're continually adding more discounts. Visit our website at hslda.org/member savings for an up-to-date list. That's hslda.org/member savings. Thanks for listening to this episode of Homeschool Talks. If you've enjoyed this conversation, will you do us a favor by sharing it with a friend or leaving us a review on Apple Podcasts? As a reminder, you can find show notes for this episode along with our other Homeschool Talks conversations at hslda.org/podcast. And if you want to be the first to know about new episodes, as well as upcoming guests and topics, you can sign up for our email list using the link in the show notes. That's all for now. We hope you enjoyed this program, and we'll see you next time.